Hello, very invasive deconfliction people. So I've covered Skyrim's big cities, and small towns. But I wanted to give the impression that a lot of building's been going on between 202 and 209. So now I'm covering new towns. Towns that I've added. Like a madman, I've added 30 new towns. Population-wise, this
is to go even further beyond!
A lot of the towns I added were amongst the huge number of towns in TES Arena, which ended up being ruins, forts, or just cut from the base game in Skyrim. Some of them are totally new, created by the mod authors. It seems a common theme in many mods that small settlements are ruled by Thanes, named by the local Jarl. You know, that title in the vanilla game that lets you buy a house that doesn't really mean much else. Also, if you want to know the secret of how I made these 30 towns fit into my load order, stay until the end. The groupings for these sections might not make much sense, but trust me, there's a method to my madness. First, one I've already featured in a previous video, Whiterun Valley Hold expansion. It adds 3 towns. Eilston, which formed around a mine on the road between Riverwood and Whiterun. That's a huge bed of new construction for me, by the way. Hvidfall, which is on the southern end of the Whiterun outskirts in the area of Huntingbrew Meadery. And Skalsgeld, which is a shanty town right next to Warwickstead. In the same area, Ebonvale is a beautiful town that grew out of an ebony mine, south of Eilston. These two mines together is kind of one way I explain the amount of wealth pouring into Whiterun. Warning with this, it's a little old and has some kind of conflict, but that can be remedied by putting it late in your load order. Okay, next. Arena and Daggerfall were both grand, huge adventures that spanned entire continents. And I mean, it was more actual size continents, not like what we got in Oblivion, Morrowind, and Skyrim. The actual landmass has gotten progressively smaller. That's not to say that's a bad thing, handcrafting everything, because Arena and Daggerfall end up just being really empty. So in lore, Skyrim is actually supposed to be way bigger. And in the process of making Skyrim smaller, a lot of the towns that were in TES Arena got cut out of Skyrim. In the squeeze, they replaced them with forts, or ruins, or just mentions, or completely cut them out. In the process of adding new towns to Skyrim, I figured that should be my first priority, adding back as many of the arena towns as I can, picking and choosing the ones that I want from the available restorations. And I mean, I didn't restore everything, because not every town has a mod available, or a good mod available. The big pack doing the most work I've mentioned before, it's Legendary Cities TES Arena Frontier Fortress, which I will refer to as TESAT from now on, or TES Arena Towns. If you use the full pack, this adds a whopping 8 towns. Not all the stuff in the description is actually in the files. Actually included is Amal, Blackmoor, Dunstad, Granite Hall, Nimalton, Northkeep, Pagran Village, and Vernim Wood. Now each town has its own ESP, so this mod takes up 8 slots. More on how to manage all this later. I chose to keep some and drop some. From this pack I kept Amal, Blackmoor, Dunstad, Nimalton, and Granite Hall. Here's my rationale. Many of the modded arena towns rebuilt by different authors just have higher quality or interesting quests or features. Still, I do want to say all the towns in this pack tend to have a single quest with unvoiced dialogue, and it has a pretty tight and interesting design for the towns. I'm going to go town by town and say what I did with each one from Arena. Keep in mind the transition between the Arena and Skyrim map is kind of wonky and not exact, and narratively, this all existed in Arena. Most was destroyed or degraded somehow, and then was rebuilt by the money coming into Skyrim between 202 and 209. In the vanilla game, Ambergard may have been absorbed into Karthwasten Hall, which eventually became Markarth. I chose Schlitzer's version. It's a small town with a mine and a bridge. Right next to this bandit tower. Amal, I kept the TES Arena Towns version. since it's the only version I know of, except for Schlitzer's version, which is nowhere near where it was in Arena. It's closer to Fort Amal, which makes very little sense to me. Anyway, it rests down the road from Winterhold. It's got a little character, a mine, and a story.
Figures. You elders are always so boring.
It's even got a local folk hero. I can imagine it was destroyed during the Great Collapse and then rebuilt. Blackmoor, I kept the TES Arena Towns version. It's a town that was built on the mountain west of Whiterun. In the vanilla game, it turned into Fort Blackmoor or Fort Greymore. Has a quest to find a missing skull. Clearly, I have not yet run a grass cache. But at least I don't have one of the mods that make the grass 10 feet tall. So just plain Dunpar, I have Kingdom of the Pale, which I'll talk about later. It adds a small little walled hamlet. And this is actually kind of funny. An example of it just works. Dunpar Wall, in a different location, is Schlitzer's version, which conflicts with Kingdom of the Pale's version of Dunstad. However, with just a couple of deconflicting edits, I can make a patch for this easily. And somehow the nav mesh isn't broken by this. It happens sometimes, so I'm just going to leave it as is with a patch. I mean, I didn't want to lose Schlitzer's version because look at it. It's really good. And also it fits with the Frosty Tankard, which is from Inns and Taverns on the other side of the wall. Add that to my list to fix later. Granite Hill is yet another restored arena town, this time by Sky King 2020. It features a mystery and a few quests with a dungeon and a possible player home. Also, Granite Hills conflicts with the Thirsty Mammoth from Inns and Taverns, but there is a patch that can just remove the Thirsty Mammoth. As there's already an inn in town in pretty much the same location, it's fine. Apparently there are two spellings for this town, Granite Hill and Granite Hall. Whether caused by a typo in Arena or confusion in history, both of these towns have been restored, and the Sky King Hill fits with the Tisat Hall, so I kept them both. And I mean, you can see why. Granite Hall is built into the side of the mountain, looks kind of like Markarth. Bonus points for style, Talus wearing Dwarven armor. It has a giant camp nearby, but I have my giant set to defensive. It happens as different mod authors interpret locations and names differently. And in-game, I guess I could attribute that to two different people decided to rebuild this town and there was a typo, just like the mod authors. Greenwall is now Fort Greenwall in the vanilla game. Couldn't find a mod to make it back into a town. Heljarchen Creek is now Heljarchen, added by both Cutting Room Floor and Kingdom of the Pale, expanding the Nightgate Inn into a town. The two actually have a patch, but it's not obvious how to find it. Go to Access 1211's patches page. Obviously always do this, grab all the patches you need, but you grab the patch for Thanedom of Nightgate, Cutting Room Floor, and they work together. As you can see, it makes Heljarchen quite a healthy sized town. Yes, I am playing a young Ohms rat right now. Ilinalta seems like it became Robber's Gorge, so I was fine leaving it as is, with Wren's Robber's Gorge added on. To make it into a town-sized bandit camp, Laintar Dale by Schlitzer is a restored coastal town upriver from Ingles Barrow and Windhelm. No quests, it's got a log fort look to it. There's a little camp area with a lighthouse and a bridge that leads to a little fort area. I actually had a quest here from dealing with Daedra. There was an item and a bandit guarding it who got Cask of Amontillado under the ground by this mod. So Markarth's side is kind of interesting. It has a mod. I decided not to add it because honestly that name is stupid. Karthwasten Hall became Markarth. So I'm going to let Markarth's side fade into obscurity. Neugrad between Falkreath and Oakwood is another one restored by Schlitzer. It's by Fort Neugrad. It has a fighters guild and 14 quests. Runa's probably going to go there soon. Nemalton, Runa and Rohisa have already been to. I kept the TES Arena Towns version. It's got a quest, a short dungeon, and a very small footprint. Northkeep seems like it's where Half Moon Mill is now, and is essentially replaced by Little Vivek from Moon and Star and possibly several other towns I'll talk about later. And in the same area, Oakwood is also part of that huge pack of towns that sprung up around Lake Ilinalta. I gave the lake its own section in this video later. Pargrin Village was where Mixwater Mill is now. I chose to leave it as is because it's got an orphanage there now, although I might change my mind. Reich Corigate is another restored arena town by Schlitzer overlooking Treva's Watch. Has a real built-up a mountain look with a farm on the cliffside. It's the only version I know of. Unlike a lot of Schlitzer's mods, there's no quest here, but it does look great.
Yes.
Snowhawk became Fort Snowhawk. There's not really a mod to expand it, though there is a ruins mod for it. For now, it's vanilla. Stonehills is restored by Cutting Room Floor, which I'll talk about later.
What can I do for you?
It's really cool how well it fits with the Stony Hills Inn from Inns and Taverns. Sunguard is now Fort Sunguard. I couldn't find a mod to add it, but I was comfortable leaving it gone. And finally, Vernim Wood by Schlitzer is on the way between Darkwater Crossing and Clear Spring Tarn, just to the south of the Rift's steambed. It has 3 small quests. It's got this cool built over a natural stone arch look to it. Alright, next I added quite a few towns from Axis 1211's Thanedom and Kingdom series. Kingdom of the Pale is an overhaul for Dawnstar that hugely expands the dock area and number of houses. But the reason why it's in this list is it upgrades Nightgate Inn into Heljarchen, as previously mentioned with Cutting Room Floor, adds the town Yorkstead. Psh, you call that a town? That's a hamlet at best. Expands Anga's Mill. Now there's a town, I'm going to count this. More of a town than Yorkstead anyway. And it adds Dunpar and Dunstead, which I'm not going to get into again. I talked about it in the Arena Towns part. Thanedom of Dirfjord adds a small town south of Falkreath, and it is compactable. So no space. Really a hamlet essentially. Thanedom of Treva's Watch changes Treva's Watch into a town led by Steleo after you've liberated it from the bandits, instead of them just chilling outside their ancestral home forever. Originally I was just going to decline to show you, but then I realized I didn't have Thanedom of Treva's Watch enabled when I cleared Treva's Watch, so I'm a fool. Thanedom of Valdnhold adds a town south of Winterhold in the mountains. It's also very small and also compactable. It's got like a Nordic ruins vibe to it, and I like it. Okay, so I mentioned this with Northgate and Oakwood, but with minimal patching I managed to get Aurora Village, Oakwood, Thanedom of Oakhold, which is compactable by the way, and Moon and Star, all to fit around Lake Ilinalta. Moon and Star adds Little Vivek as a small town established for the refugees of Morrowind, Dark Elves. Goes well with my Telvanni research tower near Windhelm. Also, I feel like I could get Shadows over Ilinalta to fit with all this, but that's a question for later. I admit, my categories in this were seriously weird. This is all the stuff that doesn't fit in another category. And I already mentioned Cutting Room Floor like 5 times, so you already know what it does. It's by Arthmore. Crack Tusk Keep, another one by Schlitzer, turns Crack Tusk Keep into a proper orc stronghold instead of just like a bandit orc fort. I'm really curious how this will interact with the Mehrunes Dagon quest. Kingdom of Forsworn is a mod that was converted to Special Edition by me that turns the Old Hroldan Inn into a town named Old Hroldan, available on my Patreon for free. Timber Springs by Timberhill adds an inn and a community with a spa, more of an inn mod really, just northwest of Darkwater Crossing. I mean, what's the level below Shantytown? A tent town? Kind of like a resort. It takes advantage of the Rift steambed. I'm counting it. And finally, the last one, Windstad. This creates a small town that rose up around Windstad Manor, my favorite late game home. This is further enhanced in my game by a Windstad mine, which I forgot I had. It says it has a lot of bugs, but I've never had problems with it. Also, because of all the stuff I've added to Morthal, this is almost like an extension of Morthal. Apparently there's lore and secrets to Windstad, but I haven't found it yet. I'm done with the towns, but that is not it though. Also, I want to mention Viking Towns of Skyrim. I like it, but Rangveld conflicts with immersive creatures. So I'm going to create a patch that I might release on the Nexus, just to move that goblin camp. I mean, honestly, it's got solid design. That means I will be adding 3 more towns to Skyrim later. And finally, I did promise you to tell you how I fit all this stuff in Skyrim. The answer is, besides compacting and ESLifying, using zMerge. Gamer Poets has a really good guide for it, but this is a basic rundown. Since I'm editing a merge right here, I gotta edit merge, but you will pick build a new merge, and then just pick everything you want to merge from your list. And I'm telling you, all the new towns will fit in here, taking up 1 slot. You just make sure the load order is right, hit build merges, and then hit relic scripts. It'll probably take a while if you have a lot of mods. Alright, and that's it. I've added 30 towns to Skyrim with a potential for 3 more once I deconflict. And honestly, for some stuff I just left the free real estate. There's a couple more I could add. Shout out to Jupe Van Dyes and the Border of series and Fat Skyrim, because they both add little settlements. I currently don't have them on my load order, but they're the kinds of things that you can really just add whenever. And it's really hard to deconflict them and Pryeye and Journey to Ban Malor. I'm just really leaving the slots open so I can add them as needed. You'll notice that I didn't have South Point, which I used to have, because it's got a lot of really weird landscape choices that I couldn't figure out how to fix. Here's hoping this video helped you make Skyrim much, much bigger, much more populous as it was meant to be. Say something in the comments if there are more towns I could add. There are a few I considered but didn't add because of either conflicts or, I just didn't like them. Also, most of the characters I've shown are featured in my Let's Play series. Heavy on the story, heavy on the modding, showing Runa fighting in Cracktest Keep right now. Obviously, she's not level 1, she's like level 24. I had to recreate people to insert all these new towns in here, redo merges and such. Anyway, with all that being said, thanks for watching, and happy modding.